Okay, so yesterday we kind of previewed our book, Fox, which is the book that we're going to be using in this writing unit of study. And I wanted to start off today by talking to you about the standard that we're working on. Okay, so we've shifted from just mainly working on an opinion essay to actually having to kind of step it up a little bit, where we have to also include analysis. So our standard says that we should be able to draw evidence, and they don't mean draw like making a sketch. They mean pulling evidence, selecting evidence, choosing evidence, noticing evidence, okay? From a literary, in our case, we're using a literary text because we're using a book to support analysis, reflection, and research. So we're not trying to support an opinion, we're trying to support an analysis of a piece of writing. And when you are analyzing writing, you look at it and you read it in a very different way. Yesterday, we kind of read our story. We kind of went through it not with an analysis lens on, but with a lens to just kind of get the flow of the story, understand who the characters were that were involved, and to see how the story ended. Basically, we were just reading this story to become familiar with it. We've talked about how we have to learn how to do some close reading, C-L-O-S-E. Close reading is when you read and reread a story looking for something. Hi, who do you need?
Aiden Kimball.
Aiden Kimball is in Miss Bartley's homeroom. I'm sorry, those were incorrect on there. I was the one who submitted them because I'm the reading teacher, but they're in that homeroom, yes. Okay. Close reading is when we repeatedly read and reread the same piece of text, but we put different lenses on. We look for different things. And I wanted to demonstrate for you today how you read with a lens for analysis. Now, because we're all writers, we all know that writers make choices. When a writer is creating a story, they choose the characters. They choose the characters' names, what they look like, how they think, what they do, the choices that they make. When a writer is crafting a story, they choose the words they use. Think about your own writing process and how you go through revisions. You know, we've had several authors come and visit us here at Schitt's Creek, and they always will tell you about all the times they had to go back and rewrite their story because the editor wasn't happy with it. Okay, that's a long process of rewriting and revising all the time. And through that process, authors can make really good choices for precise language, for imagery, for creating some mood and some tone. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go back and read our book Fox by Margaret Wilde and Ron Brooks. And now we're going to be reading in a different way than we did yesterday. We are reading for analysis. And I want you to think about a connection that you can make to our last unit of study when they asked you what was the author's craft technique, and a lot of you were still struggling with it. Again, if you can read with analysis, an analysis lens, you can figure it out because you're looking specifically for that. And those of you who still continue to struggle with reading that way, with being able to analyze the craft that's being used, that might help you. This second round of doing this kind of thing, even though we're doing it in fiction rather than informational, might help you to work through that process and master that standard. Okay, So you already have some notes in your notebook from yesterday, and you're going to be adding to those notes. Not adding at the bottom, but kind of adding to the notes you took where it occurs. All right? So you might have to draw some lines, you might have to make some inserts, okay? But this is not a piece of writing that we're going to be turning in. This is a piece of writing that we're using to generate ideas. All right. So yesterday I kind of let the camera be on the pictures, but today I'm going to have the camera be on the words. Because our analysis is going to begin with the words. Through the charred forest, over hot ash, runs dog, with a bird clamped in his big, gentle mouth. Now, another connection to our first unit, you might remember that we would read a part, we would stop, we would think, what is this part teaching me? When we're reading fiction, we're going to read a part, we're going to stop, and we're going to look and see and ask ourselves, what is the author trying to tell me here about the character? What am I learning about the character here? Why did the author use that word to describe the character? And how is that giving me more insight into the character? When I'm looking at this sentence, through the charred forest, over hot ash runs dog with a bird clamped in his big, gentle mouth, it makes me think, when I think about that, I think about a dog's mouth, okay? And a dog's mouth is used to bite. A dog's mouth is used to growl. And so, when Margaret Wilde chooses the word gentle, I ask myself, if she's choosing the word gentle to describe dog's mouth, what is she trying to tell me about dog? So stop and think for a second. What might Margaret Wilde be trying to tell us about dog? What do you think, Riley? Okay, so the dog is kind of a gentle, being gentle, trying to save the bird rather than eat it. Anybody want to add on, Caroline? He's different from other dogs, right? He's not like all of the other dogs. And I will tell you guys, this book is published by Kane Miller, which is an Australian publisher. And so, as closely as I can figure, that this book is set in the outback of Australia. Okay, so it's not like in the forest like we have, but it's more like the outback. That's why some of the foliage they describe here is different. Could you sit up, please? This is not nap time. All right, and then so let's just say, the author's trying to tell us that this character dog is really gentle and is trying to help, right? It's a helpful dog. It's a caring dog. But then I want to go back here, and it says, through the charred forest over hot ash runs dog. Okay, so this fire is pretty recent, right? The ground is still hot. The ground is still hot. It's all black and ashy and hot. So not only is dog trying to be helpful and care for this bird with his gentle mouth, but he is uncomfortable himself. The ground is hot. It probably hurts his paws. But he is making that extra effort to go into this uncomfortable situation to save the bird. So that's telling me even more. It's telling me that dog is the kind of character that puts other people first. Dog is not selfish. Dog is not self-centered. He's very giving. He's generous. Okay, so I want you to stop for a second. One sentence. We have read one sentence, but this time with an analysis lens, right? Look how much we learned about dog from one sentence. And that's how we have to read when we're trying to build an analysis. Let's go on. He takes her to his cave above the river, and there he tries to tend her burnt wing. But Magpie does not want his help. I will never again be able to fly, she whispers. So we know that her burnt wing is not going to heal. And we know that her burnt wing is not going to allow her to fly again. I know, says Dog. He is silent for a moment. Then he says, I am blind in one eye, but life is still good. Okay, I want you to stop for a second, and I want you to think. What is the author trying to tell you here? What information are you learning about Dog? Paige, you want to give it a try? That again, I couldn't hear you. Right, absolutely. So now, Dog, we know that Dog himself has a disability, right? He can only see out of one eye. He's blind in his other eye. So now the task of him going in to rescue this bird is even more significant. But there's more. What else? Okay, so he's trying to offer encouragement, right? So he's being positive. He's trying to offer encouragement. Yes, I'm blind in one eye, but my life is still good. Okay, Dylan, you want to add?
Yeah, Dog is still caring because he's taking Magpie somewhere safe so she can at least try to heal up and try to feel better.
Okay, so we're still getting more evidence of the caring person. Okay, so he is grateful, right? He is grateful. Even though he's blind in one eye, he's not thinking about that. He's thinking about life is still good. He's being positive. He's not dwelling on his disability. Claire? Okay, so we call that empathy. He's able to put himself in somebody else's shoes. Okay. All right, but there's more. Anybody see more? Amelia? And that's what we've been talking about. Did he go blind in the fire? How do you know that? How do you know that? We do know. We do know that he did not go blind in the fire. But how do we know that? Connor? Okay, it doesn't say, but we also can infer it for other reasons. You want to give it a try, Nick? Say it again. Well, you could if you ran into something and it poked your eye out. Isabella?
He's saying that life is still good, so that's something that makes us know that his life is still good and he hasn't from a certain time.
Okay, so I get exactly what you're saying. Isabella is saying that because he's saying, but life is still good, we kind of get the impression that his injury happened in the past, and he's had some time to get used to it. Claire? Right, he would be, right? He would be very focused on his own injury rather than trying to help somebody necessarily. Okay? So from this from this comparison between the way that Magpie is referring to her disability, okay, and the way that Dog is are very, very different. They're very, very different because for Dog, time has gone by. He's not so focused on the devastation of his injury. He's focused on what he's grateful for. Okay. All right, so we do know what the setting of this story is, right? We read it yesterday. We kind of have the idea. And we know that it's most likely in the outback. And so I want you to think about wild animals out in the outback that are injured. Why is Bird so freaked out? Think about what you already know. Eli, you want to give it a try? Come on, everybody thinks in here. Everybody thinks. Josh, you want to give it a try? Go ahead. Perfect. Perfect. So in the wild, it is the animals that are sick or hurt, okay, that are usually the food for the predators, okay? It's one of the ways that a herd or a group of animals stay strong or a species stays strong because when they have a member of the herd who can't run as fast, who is somehow disabled, they're the ones that become food. So only the strong animals survive. And so the strong animals then breed and have more animals that are also strong. Okay? So Magpie is definitely freaking out here because now she knows that she's going to most likely be eaten by a predator. Right? She can't fly. All right? She can't fly. So after Dog says life is still good, and I is nothing, said Magpie, how would you feel if you couldn't run? So Dog is in a different situation. Yes, he's disabled, but he can still run away from the predators. He might not be able to see them as well, especially on his blind side, but he can still run away. Dog does not answer. Magpie drags her body into the shadow of the rocks until she feels herself melting into blackness. Okay, I gotta stop again. I think about that first sentence which talked about the fire, and when I look at this melting, okay, melting, what causes something to melt? What causes something to melt? Linda? Fire or heat, right? You're learning about energy and science. Fire or heat causes something to melt. So we're kind of being reminded of that fire again, right? It's kind of putting an image. Melting into blackness. Remember the charred forest? It's black. It's been burnt. You can have a charred hamburger, right? And you probably wouldn't want to eat it because it would be burnt. Okay, so again, that reference back again to that image of fire. Okay, so hopefully you're getting an idea of what we're talking about here, about the way that you read a piece of literature when you know that your task is going to be to go ahead and analyze it. All right. Days, perhaps a week later, she wakes with a rush of grief. So she still, even a week later, feels that grief over the loss of her wing. Grief is an emotion that we feel after a loss. Dog is waiting. Okay, I got to stop again because I think we're learning something about dog again. What do you think we're learning about dog? A week has gone by. She is in the cave. She is trying to melt into blackness. She wakes up and emerges. Dog is there. What is that telling you about dog? Those simple words. Dog is waiting. Papa? Dog is a very reliable friend, right? What else? Nick? He's persistent. He's not giving up. She basically told him to go away, that she wishes she had died, right? But he's still there. Let me pick on somebody else because I already heard your I'll get back to you. Yeah. He's very patient. Okay, Dylan?
He is really making sure that she's okay.
So we're getting, again, more evidence that he's caring, right, and helpful. Did we cover all of your comments? Did you have something else to add? He's extremely patient, yes. Your notebook should be open, and you should be writing this stuff down because remember what our goal is. Our goal is to create an analysis of this book. And if you're not jotting down notes in your notebook to add on to what you already took, then you're not going to have what you need. Yes, I'll leave now. I'm sorry. He is extremely loyal. I love that because that's a character trait. So we've been talking about patience and loyalty, persistence. All of those are character traits that we're learning about dogs. Claire? Right, he's been waiting there for a long time to make sure that the bird is safe. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit more because I don't want to run out of time here. Hop on my back, he says. Look into the water and tell me what you see. I'm sorry. After dog is waiting, he persuades her to go with him to the river. So I think, Nick, that's again some more evidence of how persistent he is, right? Hop on my back, he says. Look into the water and tell me what you see. Sighing, Magpie does as he asks. Reflected in the water are clouds and sky and trees and something else. I see a strange new creature, she says. So notice the things that she sees, right, in the water. Clouds, sky, trees. How are those connected? Paige? Those are things that she sees when she's flying, right? That's where we find birds, in the sky with clouds and in trees, right? And you can see what she's seeing is their reflection. And she says, and Dog says to her, that is us. Now hold on tight. With Magpie clinging to his back, he races through the scrub, past the stringy barks, past the clumps of yellow box trees, and into blueness. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm wondering, why did Margaret Wilde choose a color to describe this? And so, I'm thinking back to the beginning of the book where we had all of those references to blackness and darkness. What do you think, Josh?
Well, I think because the sky is blue.
The sky is blue. Amelia? creates a mood. Now remember, a mood is what you feel. So Amelia said that in the beginning, the black and the dark seems to be like death, okay, represent the death, the blueness, the life. Okay, so let's go ahead, Claire. What did you notice?
Maybe he tries to get Magpie to think about when she could fly and she could see stars with especially with the arrow.
Okay, so maybe the blueness comes from the color of the sky. Nick?
And her roommate was talking, and that they were just in a charred forest, and now they're in like fresh land.
Okay, so we have this contrast between the charred forest and the freshness of the land. Dylan?
Because like after weeks and days, the forest would start growing and growing back. So that's why they're.
I'm not sure if I would agree with that. Because it does take a lot longer than that, than just a week. Okay? So it does take a lot longer than that. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. He runs swiftly. It is almost as if he were flying. So a different kind of flighting. Magpie feels the wind streaming through her feathers, and she rejoices. Fly, doll, fly. Oops, sorry. I will be your missing eye, and you will be my wings. Do you remember from yesterday? This line gets repeated, which tells us it's important. What do you think that the author is trying to tell us is happening here in the story? Let me go ahead and freeze this so that I can. Maybe I can't. Okay. Harper?
Their friendship is strong.
Oh, okay. I love that. Their friendship is growing, right? They're becoming friends. I will be your missing eye, and you will be my wings. Like friends, sometimes your friend can do something that you can't do, and you can do something your friend can't do. Claire?
He comes up with a reason why they should both be together and that they should stay friends.
Okay, another reason that they should both be together, right? Because they complement each other. Amelia? And again, that idea of caring. So now, instead of just dog caring for Magpie, they're going to be caring for each other. Right, Isabella? So that whole idea of protection, because she's starting to realize that if Dog can run with her on his back, then she might have a layer of protection from the predators, so she doesn't have that attitude. Okay? All right, so let's move on. And so Dog runs with Magpie on his back every day. Every day. Through summer. About 3 months, right? Through winter, another 3 months. And then after the rains, when saplings are springing up everywhere, so after spring, okay? And now I think, Dylan, we're seeing the forest grow back, okay? We're seeing things come back after the fire. But think about it, every day for 3 months. Every day for 3 seasons, which is about 9 months, 3/4 of a year, he runs with her so she can fly. And again, I think that goes back to what Nick said earlier about persistence, what we heard about loyalty, what we've heard about friendship, okay? So the author is reinforcing that because they've been together for a long time. But we know that something is going to happen. After the rains, when saplings are springing up everywhere, a fox comes into the bush. fox with his haunted eyes and rich red coat. Again with the colors. Why do you think the color red might be important? Why might the color red be important here? Look at the next sentence. He flickers through the trees like a tongue of fire. Lydia, what do you think? Why is red important? Because fire is red. So we get, again, that image, right? We get that image again of the fire. Okay? Remember, Margaret Wilde chose a fox to come in there. She could have chosen any animal, but she chose a fox, and she chose a red fox. Something that she did on purpose, bringing up that image of fire. And also, Magpie trembles. When she reacts to Fox, right, she's reacting to that fear of fire that he reminds her of, but also fear of Fox. Why? Why? Levi? Absolutely. Fox is a predator. Okay? So we have this predator. Go ahead, Fiona. We have this predator who's coming in, flickering like a fire. And her reaction, she trembles. That's another way that an author uses their writing in order to tell you something. The way that other characters react to that character. Okay? Josh, you want to add something?
Yeah, it also says, like, you know, the bad guy, because it says his haunted eyes.
Oh, yeah, haunted.
This red coat.
Right?
And then Magpie trembles, that means he's a bad guy.
Okay, and he's haunted, right? So maybe in a way, I think there's something that happened to him, right? When you have haunted eyes, you've been hurt in some way. We don't get the impression that he's been hurt physically, but we get the impression that maybe he's been hurt emotionally because his eyes are haunted. All right, so let's read some more. Can you see how the way we're reading is really drawing out so much more of the meaning of the story than you got yesterday? You should have all kinds of extra notes put in here. But Dog says, welcome. We can offer you food and shelter. So Dog is not just welcoming and caring and persistent and loyal to just Bird, but that's who he is with everybody. Okay? Magpie, on the other hand, is not so sure. Thank you, says Fox. I saw you running this morning. You looked extraordinary. Look at that word. Extraordinary. It's made up of two words. Extraordinary. Extraordinary. Interesting word choice. Dog beams, but Magpie shrinks away. She can feel Fox staring at her burnt wing. And again, we get that idea that Fox is a predator. He's noticing that she cannot function in the same way. All right. In the evenings, when the air is creamy with blossom, Dog and Magpie relax at the mouth of the cave, enjoying each other's company. Now and again, Fox joins the conversation. But Magpie can feel him watching, always watching her. And at night, his smell seems to fill the cave. Now, I have to tell you that the first time I read this, I was like struck by none of these are smells, right? A smell of rage and envy and loneliness. So notice how Margaret Wilde's choice of words is telling us something about Fox, right? It's telling us that Fox is angry.